What's up guys, it's Professor Smoke, and today I'm going to teach you how to make some really cool Pokemon planters using Sculpty Terra Cotta Clay. We're going to use some acrylic paint to give it color, and then use some clear spray paint to seal it in at the end. Those are all we need. We start out by balling up our Terra Cotta Clay and sticking our thumb into the ball right in the middle. We're going to pinch it in a circular motion, trying to smooth and round out our pot that we're making. This is called a pinch pot, and it's probably the most basic form of pottery that you can make. I'm rolling out some little turd shapes for the feet, and we're just going to put those right on there. Once we finish that, it's ready to go into the oven. Now, if you look at the instructions on your clay, it'll say for every 1/4 inch of thickness, you want to put it in for 15 minutes at 275 degrees. I usually do about 45 minutes to an hour just to be safe at 275. Once our clay is out of the oven, it'll be nice and hard and ready to paint. I like to do about 4 layers, and I want to get full coverage on the entire thing. So I flip it upside down and I let it dry between layers and all that good stuff. We'll know that it's done when we have a nice, solid, consistent grain on the entire thing. Make sure to let your paint dry in between coats. We want it to dry thoroughly so that we'll have nice, strong layers of paint. Now we're going to start painting the little eyes and mouth onto it. The eyes are super simple, they're just little red circles, so I used a generous amount of red paint and just kind of tried to dab a round shape on there in the right size. And then we paint on a nice little smile. If you make a mistake, it's no big deal. You can just paint a little bit of green paint right over it and help shape out your mouth, and everything looks perfect. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Now I'm putting little white dots on the eyes so it looks like some lights catching my little Oddish's baby face. And we're doing 3 generous layers of this clear paint to help seal all of the paint in, just in case I decide to leave it outside. Now that we've finished our Oddish, we can get started on his evolution, Gloom. For the second evolution, we're gonna just do a pinch pot and shape it out to be a little bigger than the Oddish, but with a much larger cavity inside. I wanted to be able to fit a few different types of plants on the second one, whereas the Oddish, I knew I was just gonna have some leaves on its head. This one, I want to have a few types of plants. When you look at Gloom's design, it has feminine leaves, kind of like female hair, coming down over its face. And I wanted to have enough room to have a few little plants that kind of hang over the front of it like hair. I'm rolling out some snakes of clay to use as the hands and feet, those nice little turd shapes that we used for the Oddish's feet. And then I'm rolling out a really thin snake of clay and kind of connecting it like a spaghetti-o, like a nice ring. And then we're going to stick it on his face and kind of help shape it a little bit to look like the awkward frown of a Gloom. Now we can put it in the oven. I would suggest doing this one for about an hour. They say 15 minutes per 1/4 inch of it, and that's pretty wide, but I think an hour is about a perfect time for this. I'm mixing together our light green that we used on the Oddish with a darker green that we'll use on the Vileplume so that we get this kind of medium tone. You know what I mean? This is the halfway point between an Oddish and a Vileplume, so I think that the color should represent that. When you're painting a Pokemon, it's not extremely important to match the color of it perfectly. most people are gonna get the idea as long as it's the same general color. Like this Gloom being this color green, it's not exact. In the games, there's a bit more of a yellow tint and it's a bit more of a sickly green, but that doesn't really matter. And here when I'm putting more layers on, I'm mixing up a generally similar color. I'm not trying to match it perfectly because the paint has a bit of a transparency to it. So any layers that we put on are gonna blend with the previous layers, even if the previous layer isn't wet, which is super cool. Now I'm just laying down that pink color that's on the lips. And I'm going to use a marker to pre-draw the eyes before I actually paint them on. This kind of helps me personally because it's like a guideline that I can paint on, and since the paint lines are going to be thicker, we can kind of correct any imperfections in our marker lines. So this is about all the preparation I need personally to draw simple eyes like these. Now I realize that the inside of the mouth in some pictures is the color of its body, but in other pictures the inside of its mouth is more of like a white color, and in some colors the inside of its mouth is more of a pink color. So I kind of experimented with this a little bit, and I decided I just wanted to do the inside of the mouth the same color as the lips, because when it was white inside, it was a little too distracting, and I didn't want to do the drool that a normal Gloom has, so I felt that having pink inside its mouth was a good choice. And we get some nice thorough layers of our clear on there to seal it in so that it won't weather from being outside. Look at those shiny boys. This is my cat Lily. She's really hard to take pictures of, so when I snapped this gem, I had to add it to the video. For our Vileplume pot, we know exactly what we want to do. Our clay is nice and conditioned from the previous pots, so we separate out some extra clay for the hands and feet here, and then we're going to roll it into a ball. I'm using a slightly different pinch pot technique for this part. I stick my thumbs in, and instead of using just one finger, I'm using all 4 of my fingers. That's going to give it kind of a ridged look due to all 4 of my fingers hitting it vertically. Now we put the hands and feet on real quick, and I put it in the oven for a little bit over an hour. The clay was a little bit dried out, which caused some slight surface cracking, but it's not as bad as it looks. I'm going to put a lot of paint on there and a lot of spray paint just to fill in those cracks and help keep everything protected and sealed and just in general together. Just like with our Oddish, I'm flipping it upside down and letting it dry thoroughly between layers, but this time I'm really globbing that paint on. I mean, I'm using thick brushfuls on this. It might take a little bit longer to dry, but the result is going to be much better. I think I did about 6 coats on this, but maybe a little bit more than that. I did a nice little pose. I thought that since the Oddish has its feet up like that, I would have it as a Vileplume with its feet up and kind of its cute little hands holding the feet. And we paint the smile right on after doing a test line with our marker. Just like the Oddish, we just dab on those nice round shapes for the eyes, and I did 2 layers of red paint for the eyes on this one. Now we're adding little dots of white to the eyes to act as the reflection of light on the eyes, and we're using a little bit of green paint to touch up anywhere that I used my dirty paint fingers to accidentally touch the planter. And I did, I think, 5 generous layers of this matte clear on this boy. I only showed 1, but I did a bunch of layers. They're so beautiful. Shiny boys. Those little succulent plants are called hen and chicks. I love them. And I also put a nice little aloe vera plant in the Vileplume. Thank you very much for watching, and have a beautiful night, or day, or morning, whatever time of day it is.